Something is happening in NASCAR right now, and it doesn't feel normal. It doesn't feel like a simple slump or a rough patch that will pass with time. It feels bigger. Because this is not just any driver we are talking about. This is Kyle Busch, a two-time Cup Series champion, one of the most feared competitors of his generation. And right now, he is sitting on a 100-race winless streak. 100 races without a victory. For a driver who built his entire career on winning, on dominating, on showing up when it matters most, that number feels unreal. And the timing could not be worse. Busch is in a contract year with Richard Childress Racing, and suddenly, the question in the garage has changed. It is no longer about when he will win again. It is about whether he even has a future in the Cup Series beyond 2026. To understand how we got here, you have to go back to late 2022. Busch leaves Joe Gibbs Racing after 15 years, 2 championships, and 56 wins. It was the end of an era, but also the start of something new. When he joined RCR to drive the number 8 Chevrolet, many believed it was the perfect reset. A fresh start, a new challenge, and maybe even a chance to prove that he could win anywhere, with anyone. And at first, it looked like that belief was right. In 2023, Busch came out strong. He won at Auto Club Speedway, then added more victories early in the season. By June, he already had 3 wins, and it felt like a comeback story was unfolding. Fans were excited again. The narrative had flipped. Kyle Busch was back. But then, everything stopped. The wins disappeared. Not just for the rest of 2023, but completely. None in 2024. None in 2025. And now, 7 races into 2026, still nothing. That is how the number reaches 100. And what makes that number even more shocking is the context behind it. Before this, Busch's longest winless streak was 36 races, back in 2016 and 2017. That felt difficult at the time. This is something else entirely. Because it is not just about missing victory lane. Right now, in 2026, Busch sits 24th in points. His best finish is only 12th place. Not a single top 8 result. For a driver who spent most of his career fighting at the front, that kind of performance is almost impossible to recognize. And when you look deeper, the pattern becomes even harder to ignore. In 2024, Busch's 19-year streak of winning at least one race every season came to an end. 19 straight years, gone just like that. That same year, he missed the playoffs for the first time since 2012. Then came 2025, and it happened again. Another season without a playoff appearance. Now, in 2026, he does not even look close to turning things around. So the conversation has shifted in a serious way. It is no longer about whether he can compete for a championship. It is about whether he can even stay relevant in a sport that moves forward quickly and does not wait for anyone. Now, to be fair, this is not just about age. Yes, Busch is turning 41, but NASCAR has seen drivers succeed well into their 40s. That alone is not the issue. The bigger concern is performance, both from Busch and from Richard Childress Racing as a whole. The team has not been at the same level as the top organizations in recent years, even before Busch arrived. So placing all the blame on him would not tell the full story. But NASCAR is not a sport that deals in patience. Results matter, and they matter now. With the 2026 silly season expected to be far more active than the previous year, the pressure is building quickly, and decisions will have to be made. And that is what makes the next race so important. But this time, the pressure is not just about winning a race. It is about proving that there is still a future worth fighting for, and that this story is not over yet. And this is where the story takes a sharp turn. Because if Kyle Busch cannot turn things around soon, if Bristol comes and goes and that winless streak keeps growing, then the conversation is no longer hypothetical. It becomes real. What happens next? Where does he go? Or more importantly, who still believes in him enough to give him another shot at the highest level? Behind the scenes, there are already 5 possible paths being talked about, and each one tells you something different about where his career could be heading. The first option is the simplest, but also the least convincing right now, staying with Richard Childress Racing. On paper, it makes sense. There is already a relationship. There have been small flashes of speed, moments where things almost came together, and sometimes, in NASCAR, sticking it out can lead to a turnaround. But based on everything we have seen, the results, The lack of consistency, the growing pressure, it feels like a long shot. Not impossible, but unlikely unless something changes quickly. Because at some point, both the driver and the team have to ask the same difficult question. Is this still working? Then there is a move that quietly makes more sense than people expect. Spire Motorsports. This is where things start to get interesting. Busch already has a connection here. He sold his Truck Series team to Spire after 2023, and he has continued racing with them and winning. That matters. There is history, there is trust, and there is opportunity. With parts of Spire's Cup lineup still uncertain, this could be a place where Busch not only lands, but helps build something. And when you factor in his son, Brexton Busch, rising through the ranks, this starts to look like more than just a short-term move. It starts to look like a long-term plan. A family future in the sport. Now here is where things get wild. Hendrick Motorsports. At first it sounds crazy, but the more you look at it, the more you realize it is not completely impossible. Busch actually started his Cup career there over 20 years ago. A return would depend on what happens with Alex Bowman in the number 48 car, who has struggled at times and dealt with health-related absences. If Hendrick decides they want a proven veteran instead of a younger project, Busch suddenly becomes a name to watch. And there is already a small connection in place, with HendrickCars.com sponsoring him in the Truck Series. It is unlikely, yes, but in a sport where surprises happen fast, it is not something you can fully ignore. Another path leads to Legacy Motor Club, and this one carries a different kind of weight. A return to Toyota through 2311. Racing might have made perfect sense, but that door appears closed for now, with their future plans already set. However, Legacy Motor Club is looking to expand, and it is backed by big names like Jimmy Johnson and Richard Petty. Imagine Busch joining a team connected to two of the most legendary figures in NASCAR history. That is not just a move, that is a storyline, a powerful one. The kind that could redefine the final chapter of his career if it actually happens. And then there is the option that nobody really wants to talk about. Stepping away from the Cup Series entirely. Not retiring from racing, Busch has made it clear he still wants to compete, especially in the Truck Series, but shifting his focus away from the top level. If that happens, he would instantly become one of the biggest favorites to win championships there, especially with Spire Motorsports. But let's be honest, that does not feel like the ending people want. And it probably does not feel right for Busch either, because even now, with everything going wrong, it still feels like there is unfinished business in the Cup Series. And that brings us back to the bigger picture. This is not just about a 100-race winless streak. This is not just about bad results or a struggling team. This is about the future of one of the most talented and polarizing drivers the sport has ever seen. 63 career wins, 2 championships, a legacy that is already secure. But legacies do not stop the clock. They do not guarantee another chance. Right now, Kyle Busch is standing at a crossroads, and the next few months could decide everything. Bristol is coming. Silly season is coming. And whether this story turns into a comeback or an ending is still completely unknown. So now the question shifts to you. What do you think happens next? Does he find a way to stay with RCR and turn it around? Does he take a chance on a team like Spire? Could something shocking happen with Hendrick? Or are we watching the final chapter of a Cup career that once felt unstoppable? Because one thing is certain, whatever happens next, NASCAR is about to change in a big way.